Hi and welcome to the latest episode of One Patriots Place Live, brought to you by E2Gsports.com. And if you're listening on podcast, thank you for downloading. Please do not forget to rate, review and subscribe. Your hosts today, Thomas Murphy, and I am Clare Cooper. And we'd like to extremely apologise for the absence of Steve Balistreri, simply because we tried to do a show yesterday and the technical gods just wouldn't let us do it. So we're here today with the marvellous, as you guys can tell. It is the home smoked food savant, multiple sources. He's also a guy that played linebacker for the New England Patriots. It is the super smart, the Super Bowl champion, Matt Chatham. Matt, thank you so much for your patience. Welcome back to the show. How are things with you?
Oh no. Once again, we can't hear Matt, and Matt can't hear us, and I hate StreamYard with a passion. I do. This is just.
And unfortunately, Matt's left the show. He might be back. We aren't sure. We're just plagued this week by the most technicalness and the lack of technicalness as well.
Unbelievable. This is unreal. You know, like I said, hit go quickly.
Yes, we did hit go quickly because we had about 5 minutes with Matt. We did hit go quickly, and no, he's just not. Oh dear.
Oh, hi Chris. How you doing? At least we have Chris in the chat room for this. Oh my God. You gotta laugh, people. You really do. I feel terrible about this. Unbelievable. So, Claire, you are not in Las Vegas, and neither am I. So
I am. This is just a facade. Behind all this is the field. Behind all that, the Patriots are playing.
to Claire's left is the fountains at the Bellagio, and oh my!
Only.
Look, this is why I day drink, people. This is. There's straight vodka in here.
I really hope that we shouldn't. Oh dear. Let's see if we are getting that back? We're just testing, folks. Apologies for the
you could like just I know you have 40 questions for Matt. You can just call me Matt and ask the questions.
Oh, we have a ping. Bear with us, folks. We have a ping.
I'm here again. Hi.
Hi, we missed you.
The show must go on, folks.
That's like the house guest that just keeps tipping outside to have a cigarette because he doesn't want you to, he doesn't want to stink up your house or anything like that. Right. And oh my God, welcome back, bud. Would you like your fabulous introduction again? I don't want to risk it.
I trust you. I trust you went really well, Murph. We don't have to do that.
It did. Claire was in rare form, buddy. Most of everything that we're hearing coming out of camp in the last, from inception, has been doom and gloom.
Right.
Could you explain to our listeners and to the people out there that don't get to see, don't get to hear opinions that are from the field, how difficult it is for a team to institute a new offense almost on the fly? I almost got one question in.
That dead air, folks, is Matt not answering the question.
Oh, no. I got a gist of the question, Murph. You want me to roll with it?
Yes, please.
Okay. This is wild. So the doom and gloom angle, I think, often comes. I think the thing that helps me answer this best is the years in media with other buddies that are former players that are places that have changeover, that have sort of gone through this sequence.
Yep.
It's pretty rare. Say if you're in Cincy or if you're in Cleveland or this is, LA, one of the two teams out there, or or Arizona when they did this, there's usually a rush when something's new to critique it or evaluate it or project it based on where it's going to inevitably be, but you're just watching the guys like literally learn. So
Right.
I think and I just think it's a really bad mechanism to use to try to figure out what's going to happen with the team for the course of the season. I understand the pressure to do so. I mean, basically football world is kind of divided into how these things might project into fantasy or either a gambling wins total projection, right? So if you're going to be there the days where the guy starts studying for his LSAT or whatever, you can't in those first several weeks determine what kind of attorney he's going to be. So it's a little like that. Like, okay, these guys have committed to trying a new sort of, I don't know, compacted scheme, I guess I would call it. It's not as if the stuff they're doing now offensively is necessarily brand new to all of them. They're just, as I understand it, sort of truncating things a little bit, trying to simplify things. And in fairness to what they're doing, most teams that play more wide open spread stuff with zone run scheme behind it, it just becomes simple. It's hard to make it that way. And this was in their system anyhow. They just didn't major in it. It's sort of like used to be on page 32. Now we're bringing it to the front. So all I will say is I don't think the preseason and as much as we rely on these guys, they're hard workers. There's a lot of exceptional beat guys out there that follow the Pats. But I think they know as much as I knew as an analyst having to roll through all those years of watching the same stuff, that the things we're watching are entertainment to sort of give a little sort of line to the fans about what's going on. But it is unreliable what we're saying and seeing, right? You can literally see an offense that looks, and I'm not saying that's what's going on now, but like completely beside themselves. Nothing relative to what they end up later, who end up just knocking out of the park. There's been Patriot years where, and these were even when Tommy was still here, where, they walked through preseason practices, through preseason, through the joints, through the preseason games. You're like, this is going to be a 35-point-a-game season. And in some of those years, they were, they'd still be top 10, but it wasn't their off the charts year, right? So I just don't think preseason practices, because they're gamed and scripted and not real football.
Thank you.
They're not great predictors for what's about to come. You see now individual matchups can be, player X is getting knocked off the ball every play. You don't magically stop getting knocked off the ball when the game becomes real, right? But all the other stuff, you just have to understand this is sausage making. It's not real football. I know we sell and package it that way to keep people's attention, and especially when people are so interested in draft related things. They want to see how their guy's doing, not only from this season, but from a year ago, and see if they're making a jump. But I always remember this as a player. It was something that I didn't quite get my first season or two or three, but you get a little more seasoned, and you really figure out that there's always a guy or two or three who crushes the offseason program, just crushes preseason. You might have some receiver or some back or whatever it may be who just looks like, man, this guy's going to have a 1,000-yard season based off what I just saw the last 6 weeks, either catching or running, and then it just doesn't happen. Or
it's a healthy scratch.
Yeah, it's just part of it. So all I tell people is be entertained by this. Of course, you love your team. Of course, you want to know what's going on with them. But don't use this stuff to guess where they're going to be. It's just not very helpful.
It's just not. It's just really not. I've been on record saying that I have absolutely no problem with whomever Bill chooses to call plays this year. Matt Patricia, I think, is eminently qualified as a former head coach, no matter how well he did at that job. My issue is with Matt moving over to the offensive side of the ball as the offensive line coach. Was this a smart move? Is he somebody that can teach these guys this system?
Yeah, well, so he's not alone. There's another guy who was in the room a year before. Plus, you have Billy Yates there too, former player who I got a lot of respect for, and got to talk to him a little bit this offseason about his role and how this is all working out. I really think that big picture, there's sort of two camps, right? You have like the Shanahans or maybe the McVay types or whatever that were just by body types or what they did in high school or college or maybe pros, God willing. They were maybe a quarterback or a corner or a receiver or former whatever else. But then you have the Andy Reeds. Andy Reid, who is a bigger guy, who coached O-line, who's sort of that world. And I think there are really, Mike Tice, old name, but like there's different sort of camps to get to the same place. I mean, you have the best, the last few years, one of the top offenses in all football has been an offensive system that is sort of built out from a person who coaches O-line as their first move, right?
Right.
So the O-line OC thing, and I'm just naming the first one that pops to mind, but there's a lot of them out there. And I simply think that if there was a concern, reasonably so, with a fan, because they just don't know how this stuff works, and they could just look in the Wikipedia page and say, hey, man, I don't see him coaching a lot of other things. I think if you had to understand intimately how everything worked from the other side, the last thing you would want is, say, a defensive back coach to come over and try to play OC, right?
Okay.
It's sort of like I build house foundations, and then I understand the system from here on out. And when you're a defensive coordinator, he knew everything, inside and out. He also, and fans should remember this, is not doing this season. I'm talking about Matt Patricia here, obviously. He's not doing a season straight away from Detroit. He came here and did a behind-the-scenes, consulted in so many different functions that I'm not necessarily able to share publicly. But he's not just learning this now, guys. Like,
right.
The
work has been put in.
Yes, and so it's not as if this new experiment is going on for the first time now to see if this guy grasps it and he can do it. And let's see how he does in July and August. That, sort of judgment or evaluation of staff has been going on internally with Bill for almost 2 years, right? So the notion that Bill doesn't know what he's doing or has handed it over to someone who he's risking might not know what he's doing. Matt is as bright as they come out there. You can say he doesn't have experience about, in certain game situations in a tight spot, which this, that, or the other is he going to call? Well, I've always argued at this point that's sort of irrelevant. Game situational stuff is going to be driven hard by Bill one way or the other, whoever he put at OC, even if it was still Josh. So don't worry about that part. The only concern I think a fan would maybe have is like, okay, can he help expand things? Is he just going to be catching up, or is he just trying to bring himself up and not able to make it more?
Right.
Let me put it this way. You have to erase Detroit from your memory, right?
Thank you.
That was a different thing. It was a different situation with a lot of different people. The job function of head coach has absolutely nothing to do with being a coordinator or much less a position coach. So forget those years of the guy's life and think about what he gained a tremendous reputation doing, working with people on the ground, understands every little inch of the building more than really anyone in there other than Bill. So he's that guy. And that's how players that have been with him know him. That's how other staff knows him. The idea amongst, confidants and people around him that he would somehow not be up to this, they roll their eyes like, you kidding me? This would be the guy to do it. Your question, though, more specific, I know it was a long sort of way to get back to the point about O-line. On the O-line thing, though, I think it certainly helps that Matt does have experiences. That's actually that's how I knew him. I knew Matt Patricia as an O-line quality control guy, and then the assistant O-line guy. And then I was off to New York, and then he became a defensive guy. I was like, why is Matt coaching defense? I mean, there was a part of my life where it was really the opposite of this. We were having the opposite conversation. I knew him as O guy.
There you go.
So then he becomes this, one of the top known D coordinators in the league. I'm like, that's an offensive line coach. That's kind of how I knew Matt. So the notion that, there's a big chunk of the audience that maybe wasn't old enough at that point or didn't know it as well then, or just has grown and forgotten that part. But there is a 10-year chunk here where Matt wasn't doing it. I get it. But he's still a guy around the game for whatever it is, 20 years. Right. And he does not have to go out and sort of emulate Dante Scarnecchia or something like that, because again, there's a couple things going on here. It's not just a year after Dante's retirement, jump into the job, do that and be OC. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's a year of learn the back end everywhere, all across the board, organizationally. And you also have
what Matt's saying is that Patricia's not standing out there with cliff notes. This is a guy that's put the work in, done the job from the back end forward, And I don't know if you heard me, Matt. Patricia isn't a guy that's standing on the sidelines or at practice with a set of cliff notes. And we froze again. Thank you so much, StreamYard.
So your question was about inflation and dog walking and microbrews. Yeah, well, of course, Murph. If no, I have no idea what you said, but give me the 10-second version.
Yeah, what the bottom line is, Matt is not standing over there on the sidelines with cliff notes. He's done the studying. He's done the homework. For over a year, he's been behind the scenes learning this new system. Bill knew that he was going to do this last year.
Right.
You know, this was going to be the direction he wanted to go, folks. This is actually a simplified offense going from the Earhart system to what they're doing now, and it's just getting guys, especially on the offensive line, on the same page.
Okay, Murph, let's get more from Matt while we still got him, in all fairness, because you can talk later. We need to talk to Matt while we've got Matt. Matt, I know that there's loads of offshoots of what we were just talking about, and there is loads of interest, but because it was something that I saw specifically on Twitter recently, so I wanted to get this question in whilst we've still got you. Right. There's been musings lately, especially following the waiver of Dalton Keene, of little George and Humphrey going to tight end. Now, I saw your comments about this on Twitter, and I just really wanted to ask you, how difficult, or in fact, how easy is it for a player to kind of be branded with that different set of letters and play in that role? And is there any positions that maybe it's kind of easy to translate more than others? Did we lose him? I managed my question. That was it. Oh, rats.
He's back.
Did you hear?
Unbelievable. Poor Matt.
Oh, no. Can you hear Matt? I can't hear Matt.
No, can't hear you, bud. You know, I'm not going to lose it. Matt, just sit there and look pretty for another 45 minutes if you could do that.
This is great.
Sit there and look pretty.
This is fine for the visual show. I can't imagine how terrible this is going to be in audio only for all the podcasting people.
Take it easy, bud. We'll get together real soon and smoke some meats and have a good time. And I will try to push on and answer Claire's question. Unreal.
That went well. Yeah, it was because. No, he left. Because Matt answered on Twitter in regards to, because there has been a lot of discussion, because I know that there's a lot of people that want little Jordan to make the team, and not just kind of in the special team aspect of it. I know that people are seeing value in him. And Matt was kind of on Twitter mentioning how he doesn't see little Jordan as a tight end. And I sort of wanted to ask how the sort of the transition, if it was possible, what he felt about it, and if there were any positions that it was more easy to transition than others. Yeah. So
I agree. I have never been one to sit here and argue with the professor on anything, but I think it would be an easy transition for him. That's the thing. They were arguing that it wasn't. This is why I wanted to have the discussion. He's a wide receiver, and tight end, it's all about blocking, and it's too easy just because the guy's got size to brand him as a tight end when he really hasn't necessarily got the skill set. You're just trying to fit him into a mold because you want him on the team, and there's a spot there. Did you catch any of that, Mike?
I caught it all. Yeah. So I'm back, and I caught your question. I caught your setup. I think I can take this at least until this kills me again. So I love this question because it's one of the things that I've answered. Like you mentioned, I've sort of teased this a little bit on Twitter, but it's something that's kind of hard to explain. But I think a lot of players that have been around it would just go, yeah, they kind of shake their head and go, I totally get it. Because the tight end thing, especially the second tight end. So your Rob Gronkowski world, your Dan Graham world, more from my era.
There you go.
Your guy with the hand on the ground, attached to the formation, or maybe back, but moving around, but still in the box. That's tight end. That's Y, Y off.
Yeah,
when
exactly,
he
the
pulls
Y
back.
tight end,
Like the Y, the tight end. Second tight ends can be denoted in an identical play. Like if you're looking on the internet and you're looking up plays that, there's NFL plays from playbooks all over the place. You can denote the air quote U, which is often checked into the game as the second tight end. He can be called a tight end, but the U, if he's flexed even a yard and a half to 2 yards off the edge of that tight end or tackle other side, is essentially often in the exact same play if the play was identically called as the slot receiver would be. He is the slot receiver, right? So it's not as if, so the whole point in this is that say you had this sort of thinner tight end, but he's 6'5", like we're talking about a little bit here. So, or even go another way. I know not to bring this guy's name up, but
go ahead.
Think Hernandez from years ago, right?
It's the Joker. The Joker.
He's really a running back body, quite frankly. I mean, he's smaller than LeGarrette Blount. His body type.
We was doing so well with tight endage, and I've completely forgot to put the banner up as well. I'd have made it work.
Can't hear. All right.
Somebody put in their comments that Matt should get a whiteboard. Write his answers. Teacher Matt should write his answers on a whiteboard. I think he's got bad signal today. I know that there's been storms around kind of the Massachusetts area, so I'm guessing maybe storm issue, possibly. They're gone now.
No.
It's definitely a signal thing.
Yeah, Mark Schofield told me yesterday that he was having these same issues on StreamYard with his show. And so I think it's a StreamYard thing, but no. Going back to what Matt was saying, this is about playing the Joker position. This is about the Aaron Hernandez position.
Claire's question broke Matt. It didn't, Lee. Matt was already technically broken yesterday, so we had
I don't know. Matt does need a whiteboard.
Oh, he might be back. We'll try one more time.
Okay. Picking up where I left off, this is the craziest podcast in the history of podcasts.
Yeah, it is.
Welcome to One Patriots Place Live. This is it.
Right? So to finish that point off, basically, if you had this guy who played you, and I use in other words, he's the second tight end, but he knows he's too small to ever put his hand down and be next to the tackle. They switched to something called 11 personnel, which is the 3 receivers, as opposed to the 12 personnel where it's the 2 tight ends. And it's literally just that guy switching out for who the guy that's an air quote receiver or the air quote second tight end. But you can call the play that has them literally standing in the same place. So you can change him. You're no longer a receiver. You're now a tight end. And here's the play call. You're doing the same thing. You're standing in the same place. Your responsibility is identical. I guess someone just put TE next to your name in the game program, but that's literally all that happens. So the point of the conversation is if you have a body type that's already, you've already determined he's not quick enough and fast enough to go on line out of X. He's not getting fade outside balls. He's not doing any of that. There's already division of labor within the receiver room anyway. He's playing almost exclusively slot for you, tight to formation type stuff to get his reps anyway. When you say, oh, you're a tight end, he doesn't have to change position. He doesn't now magically go to a different position meeting. I'm saying behind the scenes. So maybe publicly they start saying on the program, the TV graphics start putting it next to his name. The announcers start talking about him as a tight end. But literally his life doesn't change. Like he can go, he doesn't now have to jump to a different meeting room. To a different meeting room. He's not now showing up with the tight ends and tackles and stuff and no longer going to receiver room stuff. He does the exact same gig. The one thing that would change if you really thought of this idea that, hey, he's tall and big and let's just have him do that. Although you have tall receiver with relatively lithe, thinner hips, they're not going to wait.
Please. Hi.
They're not going to weigh too much. As you were saying, we're finishing each of the sentences now on tight endage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's out.
I appreciate everything, bud. Yeah.
And there was the segment on tight endage on One Patriots Place that's unfortunately cut that out. That's it. So no tight endage now until
no tight endage now. But no, what Matt's saying is that he's in the same rooms, that he's still in the wide receiver rooms. All he's doing is running the plays that the slot receiver would have done, or the joker tight end would have done. And that's where I agreed. That's where I thought, I never thought that he was going to be an inline tight end, getting out but I'm sure he will throw a block or two this season. But I really love what little Jordan Humphrey has been able to do in camp this year, and especially in the preseason games. A lot of people were making comments that what he did last week was against the twos. What he did the week before was against the Giants ones, and he had just as good a game. He had just as productive an afternoon or an evening, if you would. And that's something that, with Tyquan Thornton going down, is going to be needed. There's
Before you change the subject, sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to carry on the conversation because I wanted to ask Matt. So
okay.
I'll ask you to carry this conversation on, because the next question I wanted to ask Matt was, do you think that little Jordan can be any kind of blocker?
Yes.
And also, but do you believe that is more what the Patriots need right now with what they have already got than just another wide receiver? Because the O-line is something that is, I don't want to say a cause for concern, because it throws out negativity, and I'm not really into doing that. Yeah, okay, to use your phrase, it's a little suspect at the moment.
Yeah.
So do you think that really moving somebody that's like little Jordan, that can do what he can do in an athletic way, even though he hasn't quite got the off-the-line speed as some of the others, is really a bit of a waste of time, because the Patriots could really do with another serious blocker at this point, particularly with Hunter having some injury issues. They've lost their blocking tight end in him. Johnny Smith isn't the blocking tight end, as Matt was talking about, just in regards to the tight end too. I'm not saying he can't block, but he isn't the hand in the dirt. He isn't that guy. He isn't that sort of.
And neither is little Jordan Humphrey. He's not that guy. He's really not. But under this system, that doesn't really need to that doesn't really need to be something that's out in front. Devin Asiasi is still on this team. I think he can get down and put in a block for the moment. And there are guys he's not he's not going to go out there and take on linebackers, but the man could go out there and spring somebody, if there's a safety in front of him, or lay a block out on a defensive back that has him in coverage to pop one of the myriad of running backs that we have in this stable.
See, you're talking about offensive line, and Chris has mentioned that the O-line has questions. Yeah. And Bill needs to go shopping for some O-line. Now, does he? Because are we going to have Wynn? Is Wynn going to be there? Is Wynn not going to be there? I tell you what, when Ted Karras left, I was sad, because I actually thought he was good. Dude, I am so much more sad now that he is not with us, because this O-line is really suspect, as you saying. I like that one. I'm going to have to keep trying to use that one.
That's okay.
So suspect in regards to the O-line. I have never missed Rob Gronkowski, Ted Karras, Joe Tooney so much in my life.
Same.
Not all at once. I would weep for this O-line at the moment. Shaq Mason as well.
Right. And you get into it, and people ask, the talking heads out there from 2 to 6 will jump down anybody's throat and ask why you're paying an offensive guard this much, why you're paying a tackle this much, why you're paying a center this much. This is why, people. The issues that we have now, the depth issues that this team has right now, is the reason that you pay for these guys. It's the reason you don't go out and spend $18 million on wide receivers, because it doesn't matter if nobody can get them the ball. It's the reason you don't go out and spend $14 million to re-sign a running back, because you can plug in somebody else in there, because the money is spent on the offensive line. And that's truly the reason why these guys get the yardage that they're having. And right now is the reason that we see guys like Phil Perry tweet out first play run stuff, second play run stuff, third play incomplete, punt. This entire offense is predicated on play action. And if the play action game isn't working, nothing else is going to work. Now, I think they're going to get on the same page, and that this is going to happen, and these guys are going to have very good years. But right now, that's why we're seeing those kinds of things. And the lack of depth on the offensive line is a reason. Just to get back to Claire's original question, what I think was her original question is whether Isaiah Wynn is going to be here.
I never asked that.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind.
You're just making it work so you can roll with it. I just can tell when it's you.
I do believe that Isaiah Wynn is
I'll just tap out as well, and we'll just have the Murph show.
Oh, my God, no. No. You know how difficult it is to do this all by yourself? I've had to do that in the past. I do believe Isaiah Wynn is going to be here for the long haul. Not for the long haul, but for the season. Right now, I don't believe. I think Chris asked. Bill needs to go shopping for some O-line. There's no O-line available. Any decent offensive line is already under contract. We're talking about moving Isaiah Wynn, who's a $10 million a year right tackle who played left tackle for a while, and that's a steal. That's a bargain. To get a starting caliber, whether you think he's a starting caliber or not, right tackle, I do. He's better than what's out there, and unless somebody cuts somebody for cap reasons that I don't know about, that I don't see coming down the chute, this is what we're going to end up having to roll with. There might be some moves at the depth end of it, but this might be it. And I would completely ignore people that are on certain television shows and certain radio shows as guests who say, yeah, you could just move on from him and plug another right tackle in, or kick somebody out and plug another guard in.
It's difficult because as fans looking from the outside in, you're just seeing the injuries, the not at training, and you're just seeing those things and kind of thinking, oh, well, let's just be done with it. We need to build up some strength. They need to be available. Isn't one Bill's top thing? Availability is the best ability.
Yep.
And reliability is probably the second one, that kind of thing. So, and the trouble is, at the minute, as you look at Wynn, he doesn't tick those boxes. And because he doesn't tick those boxes right now, at this minute, in pre-season, people are very kind of ready to be like, oh, okay, let's be done. Chris asks, Murph, should Wynn go back to left guard tackle?
No.
I say no. I know he asked you, but I'll answer as well.
No.
I say no, because I say when they put Trent Brown left tackle protecting Mac, I was like, oh yes, you need the behemoth of a man keeping that guy from not being on his butt. And as long as they make that work, I don't think that they should upend that, shall we say, just to make Wynn fit, if you like. But that's just my opinion.
And exactly. And I like the fact that Cole Strange will be in between him and why am I blanking right now? And David Andrews. That's where the rookie needs to be. He needs to have the absolute best people around him, and that's those two. All right. So no, I don't think he should be moved back over to left tackle. He's pouting right now about it, because he knows he's coming up on a free agent year, and left tackles make a hell of a lot more money in free agency than right tackles. But that's up to his agent to go out and work out afterwards, after the season.
That's a fair point.
He's back at practice this week. He has the if he was hoping to get traded, this is not the way to do it, because Bill's going to get pennies on the dollar for him if he did get traded, because he's been injured, quote unquote injured, for a great length of time. And I'm not going to, the team hasn't come out and said anything worse, so I'm going to go with, he's injured. And but this week he's not, and I expect him to get out there and sweat in this 97-degree heat out, and and
It's hot
do your
out here
job.
in Vegas.
Do you? It is. Look at you. You're glowing. Why do left tackles get paid more than right tackles? Because they're protecting the block. Go ahead, Claire.
I was going to say, even I can answer that one, and I don't know nothing, as they say. But because he's protecting possibly one of the most important pieces of your team in the quarterback.
The blind side. He protects the blind side of the quarterback. It's so vital for a QB to be able to stand in there confidently and know that his blind side, his backside is taken care of. And ooh.
I have a good question then. It might not be good. It might be a dumbass question, but we'll roll with it anyway, because there's just the two of us. I mean, how are we going to make this any better than it already is, really? The whole okay. So what if you've got a left-handed quarterback? Does his right tackle get paid more than his left tackle?
No. It does, because 90% of the time that's a good question. I would want my better
You don't know, do you?
I would want my better tackle on the right-hand side, and you would probably kick a left tackle over to the right tackle spot. And but he was still signed as a left tackle. He's the guy that can protect that blind side. And while it's not easy to kick over to the other side, we've seen Trent Brown do that in the past. We've seen other great left tackles have to do that. That's what we're talking about now, isn't it? Though, it's just that left-handed quarterbacks are so rare that you don't really hear about it that much. I don't know why they don't make more lefties. Quarterbacks, is probably because of the spin of the ball or something. It's a reason why Bill loves left-handed punters, and not a lot of people love working with left-handed quarterbacks, because everything is backwards. Everything is reversed.
Imagine it's a little bit tricky, when he's talking of left-handed, because that sort of makes me think of Tua, because him being a left-handed and everything, and that makes me then move on to Mike Gesicki, because that's what's going on at the moment on Twitter. And all the kind of the conversation in regards to if they're going to trade him, because there's so many weapons and this, that, and the other. What do you reckon, Murph? How much chance have I got of Mike Gesicki being a New England Patriot? 4%. 4%.
I'll give you 4%.
4%. Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure Mike's contract or anything like that. But I'll give you a 4%.
Can't you get your ass out there to Miami and get recruiting? I need me some more tight ends.
You know how I feel about Florida. You know how I feel about Florida. That's where people go to die.
Dude, not cool. Not cool. Not cool. That was just one step too far then. Oh, and thanks, Chris. I like that question, Claire. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
But yeah,
not as dumb as I look, folks.
With this offensive line right now, I have Andrews at center, Trent Brown on the left side, James Cole Strange over there, Isaiah Wynn on the other side. It's like I said, the depth isn't really there. The Pats try, like keeping 8 or 9 offensive linemen, but then with the new practice squad elevations, I don't think that they're probably going to keep 9 guys. I'm still holding out hope for my man Cody Russi. He's been running a bit of guard lately, as along with center. I think he has a future, but they need to get things straightened out right here and right now during this week of joint practices and leading up to what's going on. If it's not working, I expect Bill to scrap it and just use it as bits and pieces instead of a focus, and go back to the Earhart system, because we're running out of time here. We're literally running out of time here, and it all starts with these guys up front and how comfortable Mac Jones feels in the pocket. And right now, I don't think that he feels very comfortable in that pocket. Now, this week, like I said, Brown is back and Wynn is back, so they're going to need to really step it up and take their 5-hour energies and be ready come Friday when things we're going to know on Friday when we see how much of this new offense is in place and implemented, as opposed to what we saw leading up to this.
I have a question. I need to just drop this in.
Okay.
Is 2 TEs not enough for you, Claire? Of course not. Duh. Needs to be an offensive TE. You should know this by now, Chris. You've heard the show more than one time. So, Murph, this was meant for Matt, but we'll take what we can get now. We are scraping the bottom of the barrel, folks.
Wow.
I am kidding. I'm kidding. Come on.
Murph,
do you have an opinion? He is. I'm glad you said that. I'll get that soundbite later. Do you have an opinion on how possibly the reduction of training in full pads and general decrease of contact in training could have, in fact, a correlation to the possible increase in preseason injuries?
Yes, I do. I don't like the lack of hitting. I don't like the lack of padded practices. I never have. These practices, they're most injuries that you get during preseason are non-contact injuries. I mean, you get times like in the Giants game the other day. I forget who got hurt in the Giants game the other day. He got taken down.
Most of the O-line could just Bill Murray and Wynn went down in the Giants game.
Yeah, and that I believe that comes from a lack of padded practice and a lack of preparation when you're just walking through and going through the motions, as opposed to actually having to get down and make a block, or actually having to get set properly. I mean, the urgency is still there, but it just doesn't happen. I like padded practices. I believe that the NFL Players Association did themselves a disservice with eliminating some of the padded practices when they were in their last contract negotiations, and the owners should have worked harder to get that back.
Interesting. We've had a question throw in. Murph, on the other side of the ball, with Ronnie Perkins on IR, where does this leave our linebackers? Or linebackers?
I believe that it leaves them in better than decent shape. I've got 7 guys, Jawan Bentley, Anthony Jennings, Judon, Raekwon McMillan, Josh Uche, and Mac Wilson. The new guy, Jalan Tavai, has been really coming on. I enjoy the way that he's coming on. I'm not sure what has happened with Ronnie Perkins. I really don't. Injured reserve is injured reserve, but I had high hopes for this kid as a draft pick coming out. I love his game. He's super quick. He's super athletic. And I thought he was somebody that was going to fit in here really well after having what was really a redshirt season last year, Chris. And I was surprised that he went. Some people haven't seen, Jelani Tavai this season. This kid's a ball player. Belichick loves him. And I think that between what he's doing on the field and what he's able to do on the kicking game, it made the decision kind of easy for Bill to go stick Junior on IR for another year. It's not unprecedented that linebackers come in here and they spend a year or two. not making the roster. He needed to make the move, and there are other guys that are just doing a better job right there.
Do you think it might actually work? I mean, an example that was talked about on social media that's a little bit similar, different but similar, is how Dalton Keene just couldn't seem to get started. He had so many lost so much time due to injury, and he's since been waived. Do you think that this might actually be a flip for Ronnie Perkins? And because there's quite considerable depth now, in the linebacker core, because people seem to have shined quite considerably, in that position, recently in training, do you think it might actually see a benefit for him to miss a year that's congested with talent at that position, shall we say?
No.
And give him more of an opportunity? No. Okay.
No.
I won't finish my thought
then.
I
don't, because he can't be on the practice field. He needs time on the practice field. I just, I think it would be better if he was on this team and in there for depth, but there are just, so few spots. Just to get into Chris's other question, should it be increased from 53 players? Yeah, I do. I really do. I thought maybe it's 55, 57 players would be much more conducive to building a team and allowing these kids to continue to learn and grow in these practice rooms. But once you put a guy on IR, that's impossible.
Yeah. Do you know what else it would do if you had more roster spots? You know what else you would get, Murph? More tight endage. You cannot tell me that you did not see that one coming. Everybody saw that coming. Yeah. Or anybody that's watching saw that coming. Anyway.
Yeah. Matt Sokol will not be on this team when we get down. It's not happening.
I think he's bounced into the practice squad, to be honest.
Devin Asiasi.
If no one picks him up.
Yeah, Devin Asiasi will also be, a practice squad guy, even though we talked about him a little bit earlier. I just don't see them carrying three. I just don't. With the amount of players that they need at other spots, I just don't see it happening. So other than that, do you want to talk about some cornerbacks? Hello?
I'm on strike now.
Oh, okay.
Because you said only two tight ends. That's it. I'm on strike.
Okay.
See? No, yeah. Cornerbacks, yes.
I believe that the way things are shaking out, don't read too much, folks, into the fact that so-and-so got beat by what?
We had a question pop up in the thing. So professional of me. How hard is it to go from podcast host to tight end coach asking for a friend? Thanks, Lee. How easy would the transition be? Cornerbacks. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of talk around concern around Jalen Mills having to be your number one CB. And he's gone out in training camp, in practice and all this kind of thing, and really kind of shut everybody up, really, I think. To be fair.
Was that it?
Are you on strike now?
Now I'm on strike. No, I think he's done a fantastic job. What they're doing, don't take too much of what's coming out of Vegas this week about Jalen Mills getting beat on three separate one-on-ones. They're one-on-ones, people. Okay, he's going up on one-on-ones against Davante Adams. Okay, do you know what Aaron Rodgers has done for the past 5 years when Davante Adams is in one-on-one coverage? He's scored touchdowns because he's Davante Adams. Jesus Christ. I believe that this group is going to do just fine. One-on-one drills are not, indicative, like Matt had said earlier in his moments of clarity here on StreamYard today, that you can't project what something is going to look like because this is what happened today in practice. You can't. No. There's no defensive line setting bringing pressure on a quarterback. There's no help over the top. There's nobody else to run interference there. It's a work in progress, and what you do in one-on-ones is like I said, is not indicative of what's going to happen when there's 10 other guys on the field next to you that you're able to depend on and who are out there doing their job.
Question then. When is it time to be concerned, or when is it time to panic, or whatever phrase you want to utilize? When is it legitimately time that you can react like that?
Look, I didn't overreact like that when the Patriots were 1-3 last year, or 1-4. Okay, so I'm not going to do it. I'm definitely not going to do it now with 2 weeks left of training camp, and them coming up on their third playoff game. The time to panic is if this hasn't come together by week 3 or 4, and Bill hasn't scrapped it and gone back to something else, and just completely gone against brand and said, no, we're just doing this. I'm going to bang my head against the wall, and we're going to finish with the 6-11, and I'm going to pick 4th in the draft and get some real talent. He's not going to do that. When is it
for you? When is it time to panic? 2 till 5 p.m. Thanks.
No, 2 to 6. They actually give them an extra hours there, Lee.
All right, okay. Good radio host in there.
Those are the guys that they're sitting there trying to get their phones to light up. They don't have good callers like we have here, with Lee and Chris and a bunch of the other guys. I think Buddy was in here earlier. I think I'm not sure. I might have caught it. I thought I caught an E2G.
I think Buddy was checking the connection thing, I think, to see if it was StreamYard or if it was Matt. I think it was Buddy that said it looked like it might be Matt's connection rather than our StreamYard connection.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, good on you, bud. But
do you think? Sorry. Do you think? Do you believe? What do you reckon? Is this year? Because obviously last year was the rebuild or whatever. It's been branded by so many different people. I don't think you can really class 2020 as it, because it was kind of, it wasn't Mac Jones's 2020. We had the Cam year, and I don't think that year could really be utilized sort of properly for a rebuilding. You can't really rebuild behind your quarterback until you have the quarterback that you're building behind, which was Mac Jones. So last year was the first proper year that you could say that that's happening, because we were building behind Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Do you think year 2, to panic in week 3, or to be concerned in week 3 of only the second year, if you took that kind of and looked at it in a vacuum, would you say that's still a bit too early, really? Do you not kind of need more chance, especially with all the coaching, the losses of coaches for this season was
over 5 years. Okay, you have to go back 5 years. I said this yesterday on Sarah's show, that if you go back 5 years and when Flo left, and the stripping of the coaching staff that he did to go down there to Miami, okay, it was unprecedented. And then the 3 years after that, Bill lost Rob Gronkowski, he lost Tom Brady, and then he lost Julian Edelman, arguably the 3 best players to ever play their positions in the NFL. That was taken away. And then this year,
the embodiment of the Patriots. Sorry, continue. Those 3 players really, particularly for a particular length of time, particular kind of generation, if you like. They really embody the Patriots way. New England, they are really what you would say.
Right. Them,
that modern day sort of thing.
Them, Devin McCourty, guys like that.
Yeah. Then when you look at
that have been stripped away,
of course.
And then this year with Josh leaving, and once again stripping the coaching staff and the front office staff of people, Bill has no coach in the history of the NFL has had to go through that. There's been a lot made about the lack of success in Bill's coaching tree over the years, but the point of fact is the fact that he has been stripped year in, year out by guys that have left this organization. Now, granted, for the past 10 years, Josh has been here, but other guys have gone, and they've taken a lot of player personnel and front office people along with them. And this is another war of attrition that Bill is trying to mitigate right now. And I think, bringing back Joe Judge and putting Matt Patricia in the positions that he has is a smart thing. Okay. I do not want Mac Jones to have to go through OC after OC after OC. And if Bill had gone out and grabbed Bill O'Brien or something else in a year, O'Brien would have gotten a head coaching gig, and we would have been doing this all over again. So what was the original bloody question before I got down here? I don't know. I dug myself all the way down here. But
you really did. You're very, very far down, and I don't know what
it is.
What we're
I'm
really
very far down that hole.
The rebuild,
right? The rebuild.
It being only the second year.
It is only the second year. We have teams in this league that haven't sniffed the playoffs in 20 years. Okay, Bill got back to the playoffs last year with a rookie quarterback. Okay, give it 2-3 years. This is only the second year of this rebuild. This is not the third year, just to clarify what or get back to Claire's original question. And it takes time. Everything in this sport takes time. It takes longer than it does in any other sport for guys to build chemistry. And with the new language that this offense that the offense is trying to implement, not just the schemes, the language that they're using. It's completely different than what it was last year and the year before. No matter how Bill says that we change things and we tweak things, the language here has been the same for 20 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. And now they need to, all these guys need to learn a new language. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer than it takes other people.
Question, because actually we've been asked, was losing Flo the biggest loss in coaching? Now, I don't want you to necessarily answer that, Murph. Sorry. Because I kind of don't think, my answer is I don't think so, but it's made me want to ask you, because I know if you answer that question, you won't get a chance to answer my question. So would you consider, or do you think there's a chance, do you believe that there's a chance of Flo being the head coach in New England in the near-ish future?
No. Bill's not going anywhere. Bill's not going.
He'll have to eventually.
Eventually, sure, but in the near future, no. The near future to me would be the next 3 to 5 years, and I don't see Bill hanging it up. No, I really don't.
Wow. I mean, I don't want him to. Don't get me wrong. I don't want him to.
He doesn't look tired. And I think he wants to sit there and rub it in a few people's faces. A lot of folks are going around saying that the Crafts made the wrong decision. In hindsight, that's really easy. That because Tom has gone off and had success in Tampa Bay into a ready-made situation where all they needed was that great quarterback. Now, I'll ask you all this. Do you honestly think that if the Crafts went in the other direction and they'd kept Tom Brady and Bill Belichick had walked away, that he wouldn't have his choice of 30 other jobs in the NFL? And he wouldn't. Of course not. Of course, yeah. Right.
That's crazy.
Tampa Bay would have taken him. The Saints would have taken him. Anybody, the Rams would have taken Bill Belichick at that point in time and said, yeah.
That's the one team that I reckon probably wouldn't. That's probably the only team, one of the only teams that I'd say probably wouldn't have thrown their cap into the ring. In my opinion, I don't think they would have gone there. But I see why you'd say that. Yeah.
Opinions are fine.
But don't you think it's a bit crazy to say that all the successes that these guys have had, all the success that we've seen for the Patriots, for Brady, for Belichick, it's not only on that individual. You do realize that other things have to line up for that individual to be a cog in the kind of machine of success. Now, granted, people like Bill Belichick, individuals like Tom Brady are heck of a large cog in a machine to make such difference. But they can't do it alone. You couldn't put Tom Brady out there with no other offense and be like, okay, you're that good, you'll win.
We saw that in 2019.
And I think that's why it's frustrating sometimes to think, it's like, don't forget everybody else. Granted, they're pivotal. Yeah, that's the right word. But it takes so much more.
It does. It takes an entire team to come together and do this and be able to do it. And it takes a very special head coach to do that. And that's why you don't see the type of success that Bill Belichick has had over 20 years. Yes, Tom Brady is the main cog in the middle of that, but there's a guy that brings it all together. There's a guy that's standing in front of everybody in meeting rooms that demands that kind of respect. And there's nobody in the NFL that does it the way that Bill Belichick does, or can do it the way Bill Belichick does.
And surprisingly, this machine has still run with only 2 cogs, folks. We have managed to get to an hour with only these two very humble cogs. Well, I have got a quick question. So we'll kind of maybe run over just a little bit, Murph, seeing as we had so many technical problems at the beginning. What made Scarnecchia as good an O-line coach? Can you really teach someone to do what he did?
No. You can't. You can watch all the game film that you can watch all the conferences that he gives, the speeches that he gives. They're all over YouTube. People, go ahead and check it out. Mm-hmm. I played offensive line for a very long time. And
you did? Really? You never told us this information before, Murph. I didn't even realize that. Did you play center by any chance?
Maybe. There's been nobody in the history of the NFL that I know of that is as respected as Dante Scarnecchia was as an offensive line coach. I believe he belongs in both the Patriots Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. As to go down, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is supposed to be about the people who did their job better than anybody else. And nobody did their job as well as Dante Scarnecchia. And no matter how many years you spend behind him, you'll never reach the top of that mountain. Mm-hmm. You never will.
Do you think that's why we're seeing such a suspect O-line at the moment?
Sure.
It's so tough to replicate what they had.
Right. If Dante was here, I'm telling you right now, this offensive line would not have the problems that they're having. It would not. He was such a fantastic teacher. He was such a fantastic motivator that it's really difficult to see anybody else being able to do that. And we're seeing it now with the issues that the offensive line is having. They wouldn't be having this if Dante was still in the building every single day.
We need to do a bring back Scar dance, put a little circle of candles and start dancing around to get a bring back Scarnecchia kind of, like a rain dance, but not.
I'll sacrifice a live rooster.
That's a bit extreme. Any vegetarians, we apologize.
No, we don't. That's it. We're in overtime.
Well, Murph, we made it.
We did.
Unfortunately, our guest didn't make it quite to the end, but it was fun having Matt, and we do hope that we will have Matt on again soon. So, to everyone who was watching, we do appreciate it. To everyone that's listening and put through the technical problems, we do appreciate it. So, from him and me, this has been One Patriots Place, brought to you by E2G sports.com. He has been Thomas Murphy. I have been Clare Cooper. Huge shout out and thanks to Matt Chatham for all his patience the last couple of days and all the technical problems. And we'll have to have him back as soon as we can get the technical things, so we can ask him all the millions of really interesting questions, because you guys, I'm sorry you had to put up with Murph today. So yeah, I'm so sorry, and big love to everybody for having to put up with Murph in that case. So but in all seriousness, thank you ever so much everybody for watching and for listening. So tune in next time and go.